Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today in our Leveraging the Library, a cost-saving case study from ASU. We'll introduce ourselves in a moment, but I did also want to mention that, yes, the session is being recorded and we will upload our slides after the presentation into the Oxford Abstract platform. So let's move to the next slide, please. We want to begin by acknowledging the 23 Native nations that have inhabited the land we're on, Arizona, and the surrounding states for centuries. Arizona State University's 4 campuses are located in the Salt River Valley on the ancestral territories of indigenous peoples, including the Acamel and Peeposh Indian communities, whose care and keeping of these lands allows us to be here today. In the spirit of community action towards decolonization, I would like to recommend the work of our colleagues within ASU Libraries' Labriola National American Indian Data Center, which is an Indigenous-led library within our library. I'm going to put a link in the chat. We are thankful for their guidance and expertise as we strive to implement cultural protocols supporting Indigenous knowledge sovereignty into the foundation of our policies, processes, and procedures for providing and recommending course materials. Very tiny steps forward in this work, but it is something that we hope to continue and expand on at a later date. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. As we introduce ourselves, we'd love to get a sense of who is joining us. Please indicate in the chat your primary role. We expect a lot of library folks, so we'd love to see who else is in the house. I am Anali Monteri. I'm the head of Open Science and Scholarly Communication at ASU Library. And Chris is next.
My name is Chris. I am the manager of the Course Resource Services at the Arizona State University Library.
Hi, and my name is Sam Mijal. I'm a course resource coordinator here at Hayden Library at ASU.
So we have a pretty brief agenda. We only have about 25 minutes, and I do apologize. I'm getting over a cold, so I do apologize for any weirdness in my voice. So we're going to go over what Course Resource Services is, which is a difference between what you've probably seen before at other libraries. It is a change from Reserve, which you might be more familiar with. We're going to talk about our assessment methodology when we did our assessment of our return on investments and whatnot. We're going to talk about the results we found from our little study, and then we're going to also go into our next steps. So there's our website there, so you'll be able to click on that later. We went through a major change back with, we went from innovative III Sierra to Alma, Leganto. And so we implemented that back in 2017, and then we did a slow transition. And so now we decided that after all these changes, we really went from a shift from prioritizing the print materials in our collection when we were in Sierra and III, and now we can really prioritize going to electronics. So that's what we really wanted to focus on. So we went through a couple different iterations and changes, and so we decided to rename ourselves as Course Resource Services to get a better understanding for our faculty and our instructional designers, which are a lot of our main shareholders, if you will, in what we do. So we wanted to, show them that we're different from what we were before. So especially then with COVID, we went through a major change with COVID, of course, as everyone did. We had to quickly, rapidly change from really providing print to providing electronic only. So that was a major change for us, and it really accelerated what we wanted to do in the first place. So got a little off track on my little. So we also wanted to look at part of that reorganization over time was we really wanted to show that we were going to focus on open science and scholarly communication. And so we went into a new division, and actually we moved out of our access services department And we actually created a new, moved into a division called Open Science and Scholarly Communication. So that was really to show that we have a mission of supporting open and affordable education strategies. And we want to reduce the barriers that students face when accessing their course materials. So that's really what our focus has been. So we've been re-envisioning that traditional library of course reserves and really changing how we think about that. And as we want to make it a one-stop service for advocating open and affordable resources and promoting accessibility and encouraging copyright best practices. That's one of our main things too, is encouraging copyright best practices. And we want to make sure that that connection between students using our resources and the library is as minimal as possible. So we want students to have that direct access into the library system and not have any hurdles or whatnot. So that's another thing we focused on. And how we did that was with our new tool, which is Leganto. So with Leganto, we really wanted to bring the library to the students rather than making the students, come to the library. So in the past, our students would have to come to the library's website, have to search our website for their instructor's name. Now they don't have to do any of that. The Leganto tool integrates directly within the learning management system, which is Canvas. And so students now can either click a link directly in their navigation in their Canvas course, or instructors can embed our resources directly into their course. So there's no real hurdle there anymore. We do use an LTI to make sure that students that are enrolled in the class are the only ones accessing this material, especially if it's been scanned or whatnot. So that way there's less of a copyright concern because this is material provided directly to those students. Another thing we want to focus on is integrating the library's holdings with what faculty actually need. In the past, we only had the ability to buy print materials. So we wanted to really focus on what we could do to provide materials that instructors want, their students need, and make it as free and open as possible for those students. So as making it as cheap as possible for their students and as free as possible, possibly as we can. So one of those things is now we buy as many ebooks as we can for those courses. This is a opt-in service. So faculty or instructional designers that work with those faculty have to tell us that they want these services. We don't really currently have the staff to go out and pursue and actually get the information. Now I know I've attended a few different sessions earlier in the day where they were getting a download of all the textbooks that were being used, and they could cross-reference that with what their library collections and then what they could purchase. We unfortunately don't have that sort of connection with our campus bookstore as it's for-profit. So we do require the faculty to come to us. But once they usually find out about us, and part of that reason was why we did this study, is to get those faculty interested in coming to us to get help. So we want to, refocus on providing stuff that was poorly provided in the past. So a lot of our instructors would just download stuff directly from our website, all those articles and whatnot in just that one PDF form, or they would scan a book chapter or whatnot. So we wanted to make this as accessible as possible for all the students as well. So one of the things is when they access through our tool, it provides a whole library catalog of databases that have the article, including different versions. So let's say there's an audio version of the article, an accessible PDF version, a regular PDF version, and an HTML version. So that way students have an accessible version to access and actually use for their education and not just limited to what the faculty have provided. Same with, similar to ebooks, we always try to find the ebook and purchase the ebook so they can have unlimited, hopefully, access to those chapters if they need it, or if we are unfortunately can't find an ebook, then within copyright we will post a chapter and make it accessible, following as much as we can to make sure that they can students with visual disabilities can read it using a reader. And then I'm going to hand it off to Anali.
Thanks, Chris. So obviously we're like many institutions in trying to tell a story about how our efforts contribute to cost savings and student success. So that tends to get the attention of administrators and naysayers. more often than not. However, most reports focus on the cost saved by implementing or creating OER. And that's really great. But at ASU, we actually don't have an official OER program or initiative, despite the fact that openly licensed content is crucial to a lot of educational offerings that we provide. So we wanted to focus our data collection and analysis differently than what we've seen from other institutions and from other presentations today, which has been really great. One of our primary goals was to demonstrate the specific impact of our library service on student costs, which is a bigger picture than focusing only on textbooks. So we wanted to incorporate the cost of material the library provides to students, whether we directly license it or it's something we digitize as part from our print collections or as part of our electronic collections. Courses in these course lists in Leganto include book chapters, articles, video, free online resources, and more. For example, our provision of streaming video is one of the largest benefits for instructors and students. So I'm going to let Sam describe our data collection methods and what we found.
Thank you, Anali. This effort, it was predated somewhat by a pilot study that we did in the fall of 2022, where we looked at 6 library resource organizers with representing about 800 students. And we had an assessment from that of a mean cost savings per student of $424 and a library return on investment of about 1,300%. So that was pretty good. It's about 13 times. But we wanted to take that. We really wanted to expand it into a larger study that we could actually extrapolate data from. So what we did for the spring of 2023 is we randomly chose 50 of our library resource organizers, which was at the time estimated to be about 10% of the total active organizers that we had for the spring 2023 course or class semester rather. I've provided a few numbers here to kind of show you what that represents. So 50 course lists were used in 56 courses. So some of them were double or even tripled up that semester. And that represents 2,297 unique student class interactions. So a student signing up for a particular class in the study. And those organizers represented 923 individual citations that are managed by our department. So we downloaded all 923 citations. We put them into 10 categories based on the resource type that we provide for the students. And then we assessed the cost for both the student and for the library. For students, we priced items at the cheapest legal option that we could provide access, that would provide access for the student for the entirety of the course. So, that could be purchasing a physical book, or it could be the rental of a book for 8 weeks or 16 weeks, something like that. But we wanted a conservative estimate, so we took the cheapest option that would make that available to the student. For the library, we priced items based off of the best practices that we follow for supporting a course. So as Chris mentioned, we often opt for unlimited ebook access when possible, because that's going to provide access as easily and as broadly as it can be done. So we always opted for that. And then we opted for streaming options when available as well through Canopy or one of our other providers. For most resources, we then got a specific cost number. However, for some, it was a little more difficult to assess that. For streaming video, for example, there's a lot of things to consider, including like license lengths. So we went for what we consider sort of an industry standard, which is $150, which is what we pay for a 1-year Canopy license. So some things we can get for longer, even if it's more expensive. We can get it for longer access. But we figured that was a good baseline to go off of. So what did we find? Essentially, there were a few things that we were expecting that seemed to pan out. For example, as Chris mentioned, we go for e-resources often where we can, and that was reflected in this sample. So 84% of our resources were purely online electronic resources of some sort. So ebook, streaming video, OER resources, things like that that could be accessed online. In addition, the 16% that were not purely online resources, a lot of those also often had e-components to them. An example of that is we might purchase a physical book for a course, but if the course is only requiring 1 or 2 chapters out of that book, we might scan that under fair use and provide that to students, as Chris mentioned. So even though we're purchasing a physical copy, there might be an e-component to that as well. In addition, sort of like one of the big things that we really like to see was our cost savings numbers. So of those 50 courses, we found a mean cost savings of $237 per student per class, which is great. We like to see that. So it's awesome to put a number to that. Some things that were surprising. One, the library return on investment was still pretty high when compared to our pilot study. So at about over 1,000% or 10 times, shows that we're really spending our money well. We're getting a lot. We're providing a lot of support with the money that we spend. And just to note that that money or that percentage is really reflective of a single semester were we to purchase these resources every semester. A lot of these resources persist through multiple semesters, be that a year for a Canopy license or potentially multiple years for an ebook. So if anything, that ROI would go up. And then finally, we love to see that our free and open content consisted of 29, almost 30% of all of the citations in our organizer. So we really have a fairly large free and open access amount of content that we provide and maintain for students. So with this, what did we do? We applied this more broadly to a full year of courses. So at the time that we were doing this project, the last full year that we had data for was 2022. So that's the year that we applied these numbers to. So just to take a look at what a full year looks like at CRS, it consists of about 1,212 course lists that are maintained by our team, and those are used in 1,300 courses. We support 56,413 unique student course interactions, and we maintain 14,637 citations in the 2022 school year. So that was great. So one of the major things we wanted to find is how much money we were saving for students using our services. And so we multiplied out our individual student cost savings across the 56,000 students that we support. And we came to an estimate of $13.3 million for the fall, or excuse me, for the 2022 year, which is an awesome amount of money. So we were really happy about that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk a little bit about what we did with that information.
Yeah, so all this was great information for us. A lot of it, like Sam mentioned, was a little surprising. So all this data really prompted us to work with our internal library communications team on an article. In addition to the statistics, we wanted to receive testimonials from instructors and staff about how the work we're doing is really impacting those students that are assisting. This is also a great way to get our message out there that about our service. We're not, after the change, we are going from mostly print to an online service. And so we haven't been able to really get the word out, except for a lot of the faculty who already have been working with us in the past. So we really wanted to get that word out that we're a new service in essence, now that we've changed. So we also wanted to be, find out how helpful our tool is to the colleagues we communicate with. And we want to also help our internal librarians who are working with our faculty to help them communicate what services that the whole library provides. So by having this article available, they can really get the word out. And it has driven some business to our team, so we're happy to see that. and we're hoping in the future we're going to get some more. We'll provide the link, which I think Emily actually already has, to the article that was written up, and I'm going to turn it over to her to continue on with our next steps.
Yeah, we're getting low on time, so I'm going to breeze through our last couple of slides here. It's all right, we're not missing anything. But we're just getting started with using these numbers as a marketing strategy. So it's still a little early to see how this strategy and using these numbers, if it's led to any significant benefit. But one thing that I do want to highlight is how this has improved our team's morale. Seeing their hard work and efforts directly translated to a specific return on investment and actual financial impact on students has been an incredible boost. And that's not something we often see in libraries. So let's move to the next slide, please. So obviously we're making plans for ongoing data collection and reporting. And we want to be more systematic about what we collect in support of what messages to our stakeholders. I apologize, I'm also getting over a cold and it just now, of course, has to cough. Sam or Chris, could you take over with my script?
Yeah, so we're making plans for ongoing collection and reporting, and we're looking at more systematic ways that we can support the message going forward, and making access to quite a lot of data. So getting our act together and organizing and managing it better overall. So like looking at Airtable or whatnot. So we have some more robust, and we want to make it more robust, find some ways to improve on some of our data collections. And we want to make sure that we're looking for those statistically significant differences between the average costs for undergrad versus the graduate students. And we want to tie this into student retention. That's one of our main goals at the university. And we want to look at maybe a longitudinal study to evaluate reuse of textbooks and streaming media licenses over time, as Sam mentioned. We buy these, we looked at our analysis of buying them once every semester, but a lot of those licenses last for a while. So I want to go on to questions. Is there any questions? Who paid for Leganto is one of the questions. So the issues, Board of Regents, the Arizona Board of Regents, it directs all of ASU and the other public universities, and we collaborated with the other universities, and actually we all purchased the same Alma Ex Libris tool, so that way we could hopefully in the future be more proactive about collaborating together. So the university, as part of our library funds, is the one who purchased the tool. It's part of the Alma Leganto All Suite. I'm not sure if it works with Folio. We bought it all together, so that's how we interact with it, and so that's helped us, integrate all of our catalog directly into our LMS systems, Canvas. So I can't speak to using it independently. Are there unique courses, or does it allow for? So the system only allows unique courses. So we get the load of courses directly from the university, and then those courses could be taught multiple times a semester. So a list could be attached to one course for the semester, or it could be attached to like 10 or 15. Some of our lists are created by one faculty who's administering a whole bunch of TAs, who then each TA has their own course. So that course list is attached to all those different TAs. It does allow some upfront work that they have to do. They have to create the list. If we have time between semesters, we will do that work for them. But normally they have to do the work first, and then we process in the back end to make sure everything's accessible. So I think that's all the time we have for questions, but I am willing to stay if anyone has any more questions. I think Sam might be able to stay as well, and Emily. So if you have any more questions, we'll be here to answer.